What's going on, Quantum Nation? Welcome back. My name's Quantum, and today I'll be giving you 3 ways the Xbox Series X defeats the PlayStation 5. Now, for a little disclaimer, I have a PlayStation 4 Pro and an Xbox One X. That being said, I'm sick of both Microsoft and Sony, and I tend to prefer my PC these days. So if anyone's thinking that this is like me weighing in on the console war, picking a side, it's not what this is. This is just kind of pointing out the obvious. Now, the first way Xbox beats the PlayStation 5 at launch is the fact that they have disc-based backwards compatibility versus patch-based backwards compatibility on PlayStation. Xbox has far more games available day one because unlike what Sony is doing, where they're opting in to look at the highest player time and then include those games in their backwards compatibility program, Microsoft is taking a revolutionary approach. All your games and accessories on Xbox One will transfer over to the brand new Xbox Series X. This is amazing, and this is something that more gaming companies need to do because clearly it's a very well received thing, and even myself, I think it's fantastic. My only gripe with Xbox at the moment is the fact that for the first 2 years, there will be no Xbox Series X exclusives to take advantage of the power of that machine. But even still, they're doing the whole transfer from one generation to the next far smoother and cleaner than what Microsoft, or rather what PlayStation, is doing. So you've got to give them credit where credit is due there. Now, the second way that Microsoft is defeating Sony out the gate at launch is they have the more powerful machine with a larger SSD. You see, current games are already struggling to hit 4K, especially at 60 frames a second. Now, that's going to be even more demanding once we start getting into these next gen games with ray tracing and variable, shaders and like all these other things that they're trying to implement. Like shadows are getting more dynamic, worlds are getting more dynamic. Things are just going to get bigger and you're going to eat a lot of data. And so power and storage is a lot better for future proofing, especially when resolution is up to the developers, unlike PC where you can toggle whatever resolution you want. So you're going to have to really make sure that you have the space for these games. I mean, seriously, what's the benefit of having 825 gigabytes SSD if that's all you have? Because you need 1 terabyte minimally, and I'm being very generous to say minimally because we all saw how fast the 1 terabyte PS4 Pro filled up. I mean, 2 terabytes should be should be standard at this point, but it isn't. The reality is, when people are in the store this holiday season and they're looking at 825 gigabytes versus 1 terabyte, that's already going to be something that people are going to feel some kind of way about. You're getting less storage from Sony. But then you also look at Xbox and then you see they have 12 teraflops. PlayStation only has 10. Well, now you're seeing that numbers are starting to really skew in favor of Xbox, and that's going to sell that machine a lot more than what PlayStation is doing. Now, I want to touch on the final point on this. People are talking about, PlayStation has the better games because they tell more stories, which I agree. They definitely have great storytelling. But number 3 on this list in the way Xbox beats PlayStation at launch is they're typically less political. So simply put, games like Gears, Halo, and Forza are simply family fun for everyone, regardless of sexual orientation or religious background or any walk of life. You pick those games up and you're having fun. PlayStation is not like that. They are an SJW democratic platform almost without any compromise whatsoever to the player. Simply put, they force LGBT themes in almost everything these days that they do, thinking they're heroes for it. And if that doesn't appeal to you as a consumer, then you're a bigot or you're some negative name that they'll opt to call you, and they don't want or need your money. But the reality of the situation is gamers are coming there regardless of all that other stuff to have fun. Nobody, when they're online in a match, cares what your sexual orientation is or what your skin color is. And Sony is creating divides in the gaming community by continually talking about LGBT support and we're going to be pro-LGBT on this. It's dividing the gaming community based off of sexual orientation, and this level of discrimination is disgusting. It has never existed in the gaming world and it is unnecessary. And games like The Last of Us are the absolute worst promoting specifically a lesbian-driven story that appeals only to one demographic of gamer. Now, so many people opt to forgive this because there's zombies and blood and gore, but the rest of us see it for what it is. It's a political stunt by Sony to appear as a social justice warrior. And I personally have a huge problem with stories like The Last of Us 1 with Left Behind, where they sexualize two minors and this, again, pro-LGBT scenario. I just don't understand why you're sexualizing minors and you're hiding it behind LGBT support and helping people discover themselves when honestly, it just seems more like you're trying to program and target the youth of the countries that you are selling this product to, rather than actually telling a story worth some kind of merit or praise. And simply put, this is Sony's business model. So even though they're good at storytelling, you have to worry at what point they'll try to pull their next political stunt. Games like Spider-Man are a perfect example. We all bought Spider-Man expecting to play this blockbuster AAA story, but then as you start to swing around, you see Illuminati symbolisms and, again, the most amount of LGBT flags I've ever seen in a video game, and one so big they literally painted an entire building with the LGBT colors. Now, of course, when you mention this, you're called all kinds of names and a bigot, and you're some sort of you have some sort of phobia of homosexuals. But the reality is, I'm not afraid of them, to notice that I just don't want those kinds of politics where they don't belong. This isn't the stage to prove your point to everybody that, again, just came there for a good time. Nobody's looking to start trouble with anyone. We just want to have fun on our games. And Sony does not get this. They are too big brother, too corporate America, too greedy to see that consumers want something more. They want a gaming experience that connects with one another. And simply put, these typical copy and paste quick time events and these typical copy and paste story modes that Sony is putting together these days are kind of running their course, because simply put, multi-platform games are what most people are playing nowadays anyway. And for that, I opt into PC, which is why I'm on PC more than any other console. The replay value of these story-driven games are extremely low, and if executed poorly, or if not broadly executed in such a way that it can appeal to everyone and be family fun for everyone, like games like Zelda or Mario Kart, then you're really not going to have the best time on a PlayStation machine, even with all of these first-party exclusives. Simply put, there are many of their games that they have done right, like Horizon Zero Dawn, and I think that's fantastic, but ultimately, they've got a long way to go before they start pretending like this is not a political platform. And honestly, I want them to go back to the days where it's power to the player and player choice, instead of them telling you what you need to believe and what your politics ought to be. And that, honestly, my ladies and gentlemen, is why I think that this is going to be an absolute domination day one for the Xbox Series X. You're talking about, you have more power, you have the better CPU, you've got the better SSD from a storage standpoint. I mean, let's just stop for a second. Nobody cares if your SSD is faster if your SSD has less storage, because let's be real, a solid state drive is going to be fast no matter what, right? And it's not going to be so much slower than PlayStation. And even with a slight decrease in bandwidth, people are going to be more happy to have faster load speeds than what any console was able to do before. And be able to achieve that with more storage behind it is fantastic. And Sony is just not doing that. And then they don't have backwards compatibility, so you can't take your old games over to the new console. And then the political stuff comes into play, and you round that out, and again, day one, PlayStation 5 is a hard pass for many people, myself included. I was interested in this device, and their conference was a good chance to really show me what they had to offer. And instead, Mark Cerny sat up there and just spec dumped in a very disconnected way from, again, the main people that were buying this console. It was directed directly at the developers, and they didn't care how we felt or how we perceived this press conference. And this, in my opinion, is a perfect indication of what PlayStation 5 is going to be all about this generation. That being said, that's how I feel about the PlayStation 5 versus the Xbox Series X at this point in time. Maybe things change as time goes on, but right now that's how I'm feeling. Currently, I'm sticking with PC, and if you were on the fence between Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5, I still say just go PC, because PC will have all of the multi-plat games that you can hope for, and let's just kind of wait to see what they do with these consoles in the meantime, because let's be real, we all know the mid-cycle refresh is coming, and maybe the conversation will be worth revisiting at that point in time. But that being said, I want to thank you guys so much for watching the #1 brand in honesty, and until the next video, I'll see you guys later.